what would happen if we did just stop oil?
Hi, Jacob. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, so my name is Sean. I'm 26. I'm from the Just Stop Oil Coalition. We are demanding that the UK government end all new fossil fuel licences in the UK. So, as you know yourself, you've heard our demand before. We are asking for an immediate halt to all oil and gas. We need a just transition. But I did think it was quite appropriate that you're a supporter of Fog War. Such a cruel and horrible sport, horrible food style.
But if we just stopped oil now, the lights would go out.
Well, we wouldn't have to see you then, would we? But we're not asking for that. We are asking for an end to new oil and gas licences.
But then we import it from abroad, and the emissions are greater. We went through this with fracking. If we used our own shale gas, we would reduce the emissions by between 2 and 60...
So the UK currently has more than enough oil and gas domestically to last us the next 8 years. What you're talking about, you should be saying to nationalise the energy system then, because the only reason we import it, most of the UK oil and gas is exported. We use it elsewhere. If we use our own oil and gas, that's not happening now.
No,
So
we're not self-sufficient in oil and gas. We don't begin to be self-sufficient. We have between half and a third, depending on the weather, of our own gas supplies.
What we need to look at is we are looking at what the climate crisis is a red light for humanity. This is what the world scientists are saying, that we need to take action. I'm glad you highlighted that Extinction Rebellion will be out this weekend. And from the 24th...
Why didn't you stand for election?
So many of us have stood for election.
Did you win?
Yes, actually, some of us have gotten into power, actually, believe it or not. Because
nobody in Parliament.
A lot of politicians do recognise that dying for an oil-balanced profits is not in the interest of their constituents.
It's not that, it's making sure the lights stay on and people have heat and warmth. And because of the reduction of
with renewables, a variety of renewables is much more... The thing is, lights will go out when the climate collapses. There will be no lights on when the country cannot run.
We've had a massive growth in renewables, but if you take renewables over the winter, when the wind isn't blowing, the sun isn't shining, how are people to heat and light their homes?
So one, Jacob, you're a well-educated man, you've been to university, you know that solar has come a lot further than that. The solar actually can work even on a cloudy day these days.
It can't work at night though, can it?
No, but it can work. But so you can have a variety, you can have tidal, you can have wind, you can have all sorts of
renewable energy. Tidal gives you power twice a day.
Tidal can work through a river, not just tidal power, you can have river power, you can have all sorts, you can have a variety of energy. Jacob,
you can,
you need to be clear about this,
right? Not a secure supply.
What political aims do you want to have? Because whatever it is, we should be on the same side. Without green energy, without renewables, there is no future in the UK.
What are we getting to make up for the supply when it's a cold day and there's a surge in demand and there's no wind?
You can use tidal, you can use...
Only twice a day?
You can use river power, you can use all sorts of different renewables.
There isn't enough river power.
The point is, at the moment, the UK is not reducing at the level that it needs to. We are not insulating British homes, we are not investing in green jobs, and we are not investing in public transportation.
On insulation, you discover that after 3 years people use more heating. That they take the saving in years 1 and 2, and in year 3 there's been a study showing that people have just put their heating up.
In what world? I'd like to see, I'd like to see that study. I'd like to see that study.
This was a study reported by
Will you be joining us on the 24th of April at 1 p.m. for a march to end new oil and gas from Parliament Square?
No, of course I won't, because I want my constituents to have warm homes.
Climate crisis.
I want them to have warm homes and have economic prosperity.
We are already seeing crops burning in the field, Jacob. There are crops burning in the field in the UK. The only benefit to the climate crisis that we're seeing right now is that we can grow grapes and wine in the UK now, but we will have millions and billions of refugees, thousands of people fleeing to this country, and you're against immigration. You have a strong stance against immigration. How is that going to happen?
I'm against lunatic extremism.
The climate crisis
there is not this level of crisis at all.
According to the science there is. Your own scientists, Jacob, your own scientists are saying it.
We've actually got an area of greenness equivalent to twice the size of Australia where we can grow crops, helping the food supply. We've seen, because of warmer temperatures...
Jacob, how many Welsh farmers have gone out of business in the last 20 years?
Welsh farmers have not been going out of business because of climate change. What has been the threat to Welsh farmers is whether or not producing lamb
so their turnips haven't been dying, their food hasn't been cut, they haven't had crops failure. There was no crop failures last year, Jacob, was there not? There was no crop failures.
Last year we saw crops coming through
we lost one-third of our wheat,
we lost Ukraine, and then we saw more wheat being grown in other parts of the world. I mean, these things are being made up. Even the IPCC is accepting that we've got more crops being grown. We've got on average 2% crop growth, agricultural productivity growth, every year for the last 200 years. That hasn't changed.
Is that on average?
That's on average.
That's a bit of a problem. In the last 30 to 40 years, we've had a massive... Of course we have. In the last 200 years, we had massive investments, massive change in the scientific way in which we develop crops. In the last 20 to 30 years, we have seen a decimation of the natural cycles.
We have not seen a decimation of crops in the last 20 years. We've actually seen more crops being grown.
In the last
we have been increasing
last year
productivity.
In the UK, we increased productivity when most of our crops failed.
Globally.
When there was 40-degree heat, houses were on fire, the fire brigade was in the worst it had ever been since
globally,
World War II.
We are growing more crops than ever before. And genetically modified crops are improving our productivity even further.
Yes, but it only gets us so far, Jacob.
This crisis isn't there. It's invented.
By whom? Who's benefiting?
You.
By me personally, yes, Jacob.
You are part of a system that wishes to frighten people into having a lower standard of living. I don't know why you want to do this.
We do not want people to have a lower standard of living. People will have no standard of living and a climate crisis. Look what happened to Syria when it collapsed. Look what happened to other countries when they collapsed.
Syria?
When the UK
Syria did not collapse because of climate change. It collapsed because of a dictator.
The climate crisis. I said it collapsed. And what happens when countries collapse? Your standard of living goes down.
Yes.
The UK is already at threat. The UK is at threat. That is what the scientists are saying.
There's no threat to the UK.
According to the world scientists, and as one of your lovely commenters just said, I would not trust a politician.
All right, but which world scientist has said that the UK...
IPCC
this is not
has
what the
said
IPCC
we are on code red
said.
for humanity. We are looking at having up to 1 billion climate refugees by the end of the century.
The IPCC has actually noted that climate change has led to fewer deaths from weather events than before because more people die from cold than from heat.
We have better equipment to defend ourselves than previous generations. Well, we have better homes, but that's still not good enough.
That's the whole point. Humanity's always been adaptable.
Yes, but you cannot adapt to a flood. If you are drowned in water, you will not grow.
The Dutch have adapted to water levels for hundreds of years. You can adapt to water levels.
But not forever, Jacob. It's not inevitable.
We have always adapted. Agricultural productivity is increased.
On the 24th of April, you should join us at 1 p.m. because we will not have a future.
Because I actually don't want to join in this alarmism. I want my constituents not to be made cold and poor. I want their standard of living to rise.
I understand why you don't want an alarmism, because your way of life depends on there being no alarm. If the people learn what's happening, they will rise up.
Cheap energy.
And that is why you do not want an alarm.
Cheap energy
because you depend on it.
The biggest improver of people's standards of living
over
centuries.
Let's go with renewables. It's 9 times cheaper. 9 times cheaper renewable energy.
This is an invented figure. But thank you very much, Sean.